Hi there. I'm watching Shaw TV, Channel 4, Saturday morning, and I'm just wondering, has your TV program, Channel 4, been hijacked by some crazed political organization? Freedom for All? I mean, this is not this is kind of strange, and I'm just wondering why you've got this Freedom for All thing on TV, public programming. It's really, really strange. Get it off the airline. It's weird. Bye.
I'm a chemtrail guy, and I'll tell you why. Look up in the sky, white streaks flying by. Got the time lapse so I can capture the blast. Here's the proof for the confused noobs. You want a pair of puppets, it's up high in the sky. It's all water vapor, why would they lie? Little ice crystals hanging out cause it's dry. Dissipate slow so they don't realize. Living in a fog like a bump on a log. Don't you worry, spray text on the jaw. Keep your mind closed, not loose on a tether. Which one you like, which proof is better? Dennis Kucinich made a mention. In-house resolution 2977. BC Weather Modification Act got repealed. Kevin Falcone didn't want to keep it real.
Good evening and welcome to Freedom Free for All, the show that pokes the New World Order and its all-seeing eye. My name is Josh Steffler and my co-host is Paul Stein.
Yeah, CSIS, man, when you're trying to beat them off and they're always, messing with your wires so you can't be on schedule.
Yeah.
I found him around back and he slugged me one and it's just
CSIS is a bastard.
But I got rid of him. It's not the first time we've had to deal with this, so.
Well, welcome to all of our live stream viewers. We're doing a different format today. We don't have any links. We don't have over or unlocked portion. We're just going to do a solid show. Freedom Free for All, we've been doing this show for almost 10 years now, and we've got a lot of passionate viewers and people that have joined their conversation, and we've had many of them on our show, from Maya Bradshaw.
Actually, it's not 10 years, it's 10.5 years.
10.5 million years?
Yeah, million years. Yeah. So, sorry, we had
Maya Bradshaw on talking about her personal story with Canadian Child Protection Services. We've had my brother on in his story with the census. We've had many of our friends on that have joined us with their own stories and their own ideas to share. And that's the show that we've got tonight. We've got one of our regular viewers that has an idea, has something to discuss, and that's what Freedom Free for All is all about. It's a free-for-all, and the common tie that binds us all is freedom. And that's what our guest wants, is freedom. And our guest tonight is Jeff Fortin, just regular average guy from BC, local BC boy.
Yeah.
And he is joining us on Skype. He's French-Canadian, originally from Quebec. Are you,
Well,
Jeff?
Good evening, gentlemen. First of all, thank you very, very much for everything that you've did through Freedom Free for All and your personal life alike. Thank you very much as well for allowing me to appear tonight. Yes, I have been a follower of you for close to 2 years now, so I may have missed the bulk of it, but I'm catching back up with your streaming. And yes, I am French. Foremost, I am Canadian, originally from Quebec, but I've been a citizen of British Columbia since 2004. And I would like to also say good evening to all fellow Canadians. I will also say that in French. Merci beaucoup à tous les Canadiens français et à tous les Canadiens tout court. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
That's more French than I speak.
Yeah,
So
you're
the rest of the show,
BC here, barely Canadian.
Barely.
So.
Well, I am the
boastfully
only French man in my village, and I would dare to say on 1,000 square kilometer probably. Yeah.
Well, BC's pretty big. BC's pretty
living
big.
Surrounded by English-speaking people. Don't let my French-Canadian accent get on to you. What I have to say today is not my personal story, unfortunately. My opinion does not account for anything in what I have to say. The only part that will concern me is I will introduce myself as what I've done, who I am, if you wish.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead there.
Take her away, Jeff.
Well, The main reason I came and established myself in British Columbia in 2004 is at that time I was a freedom lover back then, and by that point I have read this document, which I have read it up for you. Of course, all my reading is in French, but I'm going to still show you. I'm going to say this is the Constitution of Canada. So I have read that document, and I say to myself, it's not so bad. They're talking about freedom and stuff like in there. And so I decided to make the move to start serving the people as best as I could. So I scratched my head for a few moments. What can I do to serve this country of ours? So I've decided to sign up as a military in the Royal Canadian Navy. So I've prepared other things for you. Here are the official dog tag that I've received when I was there, when I signed up. My name is engraved in metal. I've also prepared, because you get to swear allegiance when you get into the military. So I've prepared two little certificates that I'd like to read out loud to you.
Sure.
If you allow me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. All right. So here's the certificate in question. You may not see it well, but it's in a glass jewel case. So I hope I'll pronounce everything right. So my name, Jean-François Fortin in full, has been selected to enroll in the Canadian Forces as a non-com member, and in making the formal commitment to serve Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successor. I will repeat her heir and successor. There's a reason why I'm repeating that. We'll come to this later. And to defend Canadian interest and value at home and abroad. In joining the Canadian Forces, you promise that you will demonstrate the quality of integrity, loyalty, courage, honesty, fairness, and responsibility, putting service before self and personifying the attribute expected by the citizen of Canada who you represent and who hereby put their trust in you. So this is what I swear to do. I will read the second one. It's much shorter. This is the Serment of Allegiance, this one.
Okay.
It goes that way. I undersign, my name, again, Jean-François Fortin, do solemnly affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heir and successor. I'll repeat that again, her heir and successor according to law. So I come back to the previous document. This is the law in question. Our Constitution.
Now, Jeff, is that the BNA Act or is that the Constitution?
The North American Act, you mean? The
British North American Act.
Constitute the document, which is from 1867 to 1982. So it also includes Trudeau's Constitution, or what they claim is
Canadian Bill of Rights is what that
Constitution.
is.
Thank you very much.
Schedule, right?
Well, I think the difference is the charter came in later.
Oh, yeah.
1982, yes, on the 7th,
and so before that we had
April,
a Canadian Bill of Rights.
1982.
Yeah, we had a Canadian Bill of Rights. Charter, but the BNA Act, the British North American Act, was this 1867.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look at that. I have prepared it, and you're right. So I will
BNA
just stand up. See,
a lot of people have forgotten. Yeah, a lot of people have forgotten about the BNA Act.
Thank you very much. You know the date, and technically, I've sworn allegiance to this pile of documents that I've just shown you, and to the Queen, and that's what I thought it was when I got there. But then, due to medical circumstances, I had to go out in a hurry without completing my full service. So I received a medical honorable discharge in 2008. So that's a while back. But since then, when I retired, I thought that I'd get an automatic, because my medical file is dystic. With a medical discharge, I thought that the benefits from Veterans Affairs would come automatically with it. And this is where I started being interested in law. I had to fight it through court, through Veterans Appeal Court, my medical condition. So the reason I was getting out was clear: medical discharge. Here's the file. And then I applied in Veterans Affairs, and I didn't figure it out. It was a different ministry or different part, if you prefer, of the government. So I had to make a second application, which has no link with my military service in reality. It doesn't come, like I said, automatically. I had to go through a private transition period with Manuvi, which is a private insurance, which has they claim they've given me care for 2 years, but that wasn't true. I didn't receive any care for the past 12 years that I've been on Veterans Affairs. But what I realized is when I won my case in front of the appeal court, I had to sign a second contract, and it had no relation with the first one. That's how I discovered we were in a commercial system. And I'll come back to the commercial system a little later. I just want to prove that I am really who I am. This is my former military card with my face and name. And this is my veteran benefit cards that I'm receiving right now.
Yeah.
And also that I'm fully paid by the government of Canada. Here's a check stub for this month. You can see my name there, Jeff Fortin.
Okay.
So I am brought to you. Even though they don't agree, courtesy of the government of Canada, I am in no way, shape, or form a government agent anymore. But I do receive benefits from the government every month.
And just to make it super absolutely clear, you're not committing suicide anytime soon, are you?
No. But thank you for mentioning that, because I have been harassed, targeted. There is nothing in this book. Here's the next law I wanted to show to you. This is the Criminal Code of Canada, in French, of course. Mm-hmm. As you know by now, I'm Frenchy.
Yeah.
So there is nothing in that book that has not come through or around my life for the past 5 or 6 years that I've been taking on the system. Actually, I have no interest in being here tonight. Like I just showed you, I'm receiving a benefit from the government, and I am taking full-fledged upon them and what they've done wrong. But yeah, they've came back and strike at me very hard, and I am expecting and I'm surprised that my car hasn't blown yet. But the thing is, everything I'm claiming is the Constitution. I'm claiming, this flag, not another. I'm working by the Criminal Code. I have the Black's Law Dictionary here. In reality, the only reason they came for me is to prevent tonight from happening. And of course, everything that is on my own channel.
So I guess that's a good starting point. Where can people find more information about what you're talking about?
Well, of course, directly through me, but 99% of what I've done was done in French, since of my background. Since the main problem with Discover is also in Quebec, they can look in what I'm about to talk today in a few moments. They can check my work on canadagrandjury.ca, which is the website that, and I see it now. You've got it on screen. Thank you very much. This is a translation of Google. This is my 15 minutes of glory. In truth, it's not today. Today, I'm here to speak about that and how the people can claim back their power of self-government, and also their freedom of judgment. For my part, even though I am really nervous tonight in answering any question you may throw my way, facts are fact. My opinion doesn't count. My own life has no weight in the outcome of what has been done. The truth is the truth. It will defend itself. It's a bit sad from my position that I'm the one who has to yell it.
Yeah.
But even though I'm in the minority of one, I will always, it is the truth. All I need to do is bring it forward. If you feel like killing the messenger, well, be my guest, because when I signed for military, somehow I was expecting, to possibly be blown out and die. So I'm not afraid of dying, but
so
I am nervous that there's a huge amount of work based on a pile of lie that we've been served for many, many, many centuries, and we need to put an end to that.
So let's get down to the bottom. Let's straight to the first question. What is wrong with the current Canada? And we mentioned we had a Skype conversation the other day We talked a little bit about it. It's nothing new that I've heard. In fact, we've had people like Dean Clifford, Rob Menard, a lot of different people, even David, Kevin, Lindsay on our show.
Yeah.
These aren't legal scholars. They're not, legal gurus. They're just people that have done research like yourself. What, in your opinion, is going on with Canada?
Well, first of all, I'd like to clear one thing. I don't do politics. So all the haters out there, this is me. I don't do politics. I'll state what I know based on what I've studied. You are free to verify everything. But what's wrong with Canada in a nutshell? There's been a coup d'état. There is no such thing called Canada outside of a corporation. It is not acceptable that our country was hijacked. And I'm really nervous about that because now the people are finding out and the system is in panic mode, so much so that I've been under attack for stating the truth on a personal basis. This is why I'm speaking now in English in front of everyone, hopefully, that they can share that because I really need to shut up at this point. The system is coming really hard on me. I've done everything in French. This is not the first time I appear in public. But we need to work all together to take it back. The situation is not clean at all.
What does that look like? Like to take it back? Like over the conversation that we had yesterday, all day today, I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, it's like how do we convince people? How do we tell people? How do you? Because the majority of people that I know on Facebook that are my Facebook friends, and I'd say the majority of people that watch this YouTube video, because when you Google this, it won't come up in the algorithm.
No.
So the majority of people that come to this channel will kind of know what you're talking about. They've already watched our show. They're not in, they're in the now. They know what's going on. So, what does that look like?
All right. Thank you very much for this question. This is where I will invite you to first. I will speak about that very extensively. This is why we are here today. In 2 words, how to take it back. The way I've used and it worked. I'll speak about that right after. Is grand jury. Now we don't have such an instance right now in Canada, except for what I will talk about after I invite you. Remember the link I gave you a few moments ago before we started?
Yep. Yeah.
I would like to now invite you to read the 2 first paragraphs of that link. Then I'll come back and talk about it.
I'll read the first one.
Is that good with you?
Okay, I'll read the second paragraph.
Josh will read the second one.
What's that? Sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
Josh will read the second second paragraph. I'll read the first one.
Thank you very much. I'll briefly shut my camera, and since I know what you're reading about, I'm just going to take 1 minute for myself, and I'll be right back by the time you're done reading that. All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, sounds good. So this is Grand Jury's Political Power and Citizenship in Quebec and Lower Canada, 1764 to 1830. A paper for the 77th annual meeting of the Canadian Historical Association in Ottawa, 1998. The introduction says, and I'll speak in my broadcaster voice. The fundamental role of the jury in common law jurisdictions, at least up until the 19th century, needs no demonstration. With the judges and the court officials, the jury stood at the center of the English criminal justice system, and most of its colonial derivatives. The issue which most concerns historians of the jury is not its importance, but rather its social composition and its actions in criminal cases. Was it really Blackstone's, quote, palladium of liberty, quote, or rather an instrument of class control and elite oppression? Always acknowledged as well, though often only in passing, is the importance of the jury system in the construction of British identity. Less well studied is the place of the jury in the actual political process as bodies which had an influence on matters that went beyond the strictly legal aspects of the criminal justice system.
Okay, my turn. So the second paragraph says, 2 examples, both from Quebec Quebec and Lower Canada show how juries could serve an explicit political purpose beyond the criminal justice system. The first dates from 1764 at the beginning of British civilian rule in the newly conquered colony. In October, the grand jury of the First Court of Quarter Sessions of the Peace at Quebec presented a detailed list of grievances against the colonial administration, including the incompetency and insufficiency of the judiciary, the inconvenience of the military presence, and so on. The presentment, however, also had deeper political implications. First, the grand jury affirmed that it was the sole representative institution in the colony, that its members, as British subjects, had a right to be consulted on the substance of all laws affecting the colony, and that all public accounts should be presented to it. In essence, the grand jury was proposing that it take the place of the promised but not delivered legislative assembly. And second, the grand jury argued that all Catholics should be excluded from jury service, as they recognized the supremacy of the Pope, and their presence thus offended the sacred laws and liberties of England. The main body of the presentment was signed by 14 British jurors, handpicked, as it turned out, to represent British mercantile interests against the colonial administration, and 7 Canadian jurors. However, the portion relating to the disenfranchisement of Catholics was signed only by the British jurors.
All right, thank you very much for reading that out loud. You did a much better job than I did. As for the little history following this, the disenfranchisement, as they say, didn't work because, of course, back then there was a exceptional situation in which the British people were in lesser number. So, in fact, they had to accept that Catholic people form part of the justice system. But when you read back, including the incompetency and insufficiency of the judiciary, there's a lot of Y in there. It's still what we have today, exactly that little line there. So based upon historical fact of the grand jury that you've just read about, you find out that grand jury were by the people, putting back the power of self-government, and judgment in the end of random people. This is exactly why they've abolished grand jury in Canada. And their claim was it is too costly, which, back in the days, they were probably right. I mean, bringing 24 people together with their horse and cart and, in big cities, that was probably costly. Today we've done a grand jury in 2015, which has costed around $600. So I don't think that's...
So are you saying we don't have a grand jury in Canada?
We don't.
And
the very last grand jury was in New Brunswick. I think it ended in 1987. You can check the fact. I'm not too sure. But one sure thing, even though we're not using them today, you've read it yourself. Common law's jurisdiction have been using grand jury. They've been using it since the 12th of June of the year 1215, so 1215. So that's 800 years old in 2015 when we've done that was 800 years old of existence, and it is common law. And this is the problem in Canada. There is no common law. There is only private right. Commercial court only hears about private right. So this is where we stand today. It's we the people versus the corporation of Canada. And the question is, what are we going to do with it? Because now I'm about to talk what we have done. Okay. Because I think the grand juries are a way to go for people to...
So let me ask a question here. Are you suggesting that the grand jury would replace the legislature, like the legislative assembly?
No, not at all. Okay. But they are in power of putting them at trial as well as anything else.
Oh, well, I'm all
the
for
legislature's role is to write law in accordance to this paper.
The BNA Act, Constitution Act.
That's it. And if the people, just like you and I, figure out that, well, these people they're not going according to this, let's put them at trial. It is not only a right in terms of commercial court, but it is also a duty, in terms of common law, because the common law is based upon what we all decide, isn't it? Unless I'm wrong about the principle of common law. It's a situation presented in front of you, and you get to judge it.
So what authority derives grand jury?
Directly from the people. It's not under the government. It is technically, when you look back at history, they are in charge, the Ministry of Justice, of having the instance work together. For example, they should provide a courtroom. They should provide everything that's needed to go through a grand jury, including the chairs, everything that's needed. But the authority, just like in any jury, resides in the people who are judging, just people taken from the mass. Make no difference between criminal justice and what we can call civilian justice. There's only two forms of law that exist, civilian and martial. Martial applies only to people like me when we are in active duty. As of now, I have been relieved of all functions, so only the civil law applies to me, but it includes also the criminal code. So
where would admiralty law fit into?
It is yes. In fact, we don't have anything but that.
We don't have anything but admiralty law.
Commercial code, UCC, Universal Commercial Code.
The UCC is admiralty law. Yes.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
Okay. And how does that differ from common law, would you say?
Well, common law is the law of the land itself by the people who lives into it. Admiralty law is the law of the pirate at sea. And
they love the pirates' law, hey? They're all
pirate law. Yeah, that's it. There's no really such thing as international justice, because there's not really such thing as an international body of law. That's what they have, the universal commercial guns.
The United Nations.
Sorry about it. The universal commercial code, and we are ruled right now not by a democracy of people. We're ruled by pirates. So they're applying that in everything that they do. Piracy.
Well, they are robbing and stealing.
Yeah,
it's not Batman and Robin. It's robbing and stealing.
So you created you created a grand jury?
I did not create the grand jury. It was done by the Magna Carta Libertatum in 1215. So it followed the British law of the land, if we can call it so, but the British history all the way up to Canada. But it is not anybody's property, the grand jury. Anyone can do one. There is a due process to follow. It is quite simple since it's common law. And my role was a prosecutor in a grand jury in 2015. And the way I've done that, in fact, and now I'll tell you what brought it to life. Around 2010, I don't have the exact date, I could check, but it's not really important. I've met a gentleman, his name is Denis Paiement. Of course, that was in Quebec, so you all know by now that probably most of my friends are French-Canadian, so you're going to hear a lot of French name in the story. But the poor lad, 10 years earlier, in 2003, he had a very, very violent working accident, and he got both legs cut above the knees at work.
Ouch.
So that's pretty dramatic in itself, if you ask me. And then in Quebec, there is a regime called CSST, 4 letters. That's an acronym that stands for Commission de la Santé Sécurité au Travail. They are the so-called public insurance that every worker is protected by. But it took them 4 years after his accident itself to recognize that this guy may be handicapped from now on. I mean, they've tried everything to push him back at work. Well, look, the guy has both leg cut. Can we give him a break, please? You know, I think he's given his share to the nation's wealth, and we can look after him from now on. Well, it took them 4 years to agree he had his leg cut. He was given a amount of money, which is ridicule, for the loss of his legs, and then a per month, which sums around $15,000 a year, and nothing else. So when I met him, I asked him what happened to him, and he said what I've just said. So I went and looked at the status of this company, this insurance company called Public, that was supposed to apply the law. Which law? Once again, it's in French. La loi sur les accidents du travail et les maladies professionnelles, which translate roughly as law to protect versus professional sickness and work accident, roughly. It's a rough and loose translation. So I started reading that law, and I went through all of it once. I said, it's not so much of a bad law. I don't understand most of it. Also understand that does not apply in the situation in which I am involved now. But there is 23 bullet point in that law which apply directly to this gentleman in one way or another. One of them is, for example, we live in Canada. There are winters, except in beautiful Victoria. Yeah. But everywhere else, we need to plow snow. And this gentleman, without legs, it's roughly hard to it's very hard to go and plow snow. And one of the chapter in the law says you are allowed, when the situation, which he was in, allow for refund for that solution to be put forward for him. And he never had it in 10 years. So it went on like that, and I realized, well, in fact, all you're getting is a monthly paycheck. Sorry. He said, well, basically, yes. And a wheelchair every once in a while. So we made a claim of right in front of these people. So his house
in front of which people?
The full benefits that he needs. He needed a lower counter. He needed a lower washroom facilities, and all these things that a gentleman in this condition needed. So it around $98,000 that they needed to put in his house in order to put it up to standard. And while they were doing that, they paid the $96,000. But when you look at the end result of the house, you realize quickly, well, this house is not in a condition in which a wheelchair can be in. For example, he did not add access to the bottom part of his house. He didn't have a emergency exit for his wheelchair. He didn't have an access ramp for a wheelchair once again. They've done all sorts of crazy things on which I'm going to skip in order to get to the core of the story.
Yeah.
And Dennis, his name once again, I said to him, let them do until the end so you can prove that they are incompetent. And when they came and issued the last check for the person who was doing the work, was the amount of $25,000. And I said to him, you're going to hold to that check. You're not going to pay out the entrepreneur that came to your place to put your house in the state that it is now. And I'll tell you, the state was worse after $100,000 was put in than it was before they came in. So it started a fight right there in front of lawyers and everything. So they had letter going back and forth, trying to force my friend to pay. And we ended up going back to Quebec City with the check on hand. He's taken a Sharpie and he's written on it void, giving it back to the insurance company. Well, the very first thing they've done, they've shred the check in two. They've issued another one, went over his signature, and paid out. I knew it was a win right there because this is called fraud.
Okay.
My friend didn't accept the state in which they've left the house, and it was not according not only to his condition, but we have a code for building in Quebec. It was not even up to the standard of the code in no way, shape, or form. So once that was done, we had to follow a procedure in which we had to complain, then go in front of a court. That's all provided by the insurance company. So this is where I put a stop. I said to my friend, they're judge and party in this matter, right? And he said, well, looks like it, because the judge in which I'm going to go, as well as the complaint department, they're all working for this company that has just screwed me around. And in the meantime, I'm just going to put a side story. There was someone else. His name is Jacques-Antoine Normandin. He was going in court in front of the Canada Revenue Agency. And this is where it gets really interesting. He went through all the procedure. Remember, this is just a side note. Through all the procedure against them, but the prosecutor was the Canada Revenue Agency lawyer. He said at one point, only signature makes an effect, or you know, validate a commercial effect. So now we had that prosecutor saying to us that if you don't sign anything, you're not bound by it. So this is where I scratched my head for a moment. I said, what happened on the 17th of April 1982? Oh yeah, Trudeau went to Westminster the previous year and he tried to get the Charter of Rights and everything that comes with it, 1982. And I said, hold on a minute. Quebec has not signed this document. In 1982, this is where I realized it. And remember, I told you I signed a second contract with Veterans Affairs. So I've already learned by now the commercial system. And now we're getting to that. An insurance company which is committing fraud, and the prosecutor of Canada Revenue Agency which is saying if you don't sign, it's no valid.
Essentially admitting the fraud.
Well, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. So above that, I said, okay, hold on a minute. How can we have any form of justice, if we're getting back to my friend's story, closing the side note, in front of them, if in fact they have no legal status to put a tribunal forward? Because if you don't sign the Constitution, which is the utmost document, by deduction, no other law apply. So this is exactly why my friend was not getting served according to the law, because the insurance company know if I can learn it, well, there is no law in the end. Nothing is valid.
But I haven't
what can we do from that point on?
I haven't signed.
I haven't signed my signature on the Constitution. In fact, I don't even know if I'm a citizen because I've never applied.
That's exactly it, gentlemen. That's why I've sworn on to that. Remember, I've read it before I've sworn on to it. Article 52, 32, and number 2 of the 82 version.
Yeah, the Charter.
If you read them in that order, you realize very quickly you don't have to sign the Constitution. And why don't you have to sign it? Because it only applies to government.
Yeah.
So you're not part of the contract.
I was under the understanding that the BNA Act is a guidebook for how government ought to structure itself in
That's exactly
the
it.
respect
That's exactly
of the
it.
British
They have to
government.
abide by the structure that
It doesn't have
just like
it was
if you were learning
originally
to
done-
drive a
Doesn't have rights
car,
or
they're going to
freedoms in
hand
it.
you a handbook and say, look, this is how you drive it. But that book doesn't tell you if you have to stop at the CN Tower in Toronto or if you want to go all the way to St. John.
Wasn't
It doesn't tell you. So that's the beauty of it. This does not tell you what the will of the people is, but it tells the government how to be. They don't have a freedom. And that's what I realized. The government is just a paper.
But it also
They're
says in
not
the
alive.
BNA Act, the first few lines, I haven't read it in many, many years, and I'm caught off guard right now, but it said something like, to establish a government respecting the laws similar to that of Britain, the laws of Britain.
the motherland.
And the Constitution of
Fatherland?
Britain, or the Constitution of England, I should say,
Was based off.
is there's not one constitution, there's many documents that
There's
make up.
11 documents that
Including the Magna
constitute
Carta.
Canada, but in fact everything that came before the Constitution, which was lawful back then in Britain, was passed on to us by definition. It is, and this is why I brought the Magna Carta in front and the grand jury. It is historical that yes, all these law applies to us, and if we abide in the end by what we can call the law of the land, we the people, it's so simple, it's mind-boggling. It resumed to a 3-word sentence: do no harm. That's the law of the land
the
in
common
reality.
law, yeah.
Do no harm. And then we've got all of these papers, all of these books and stuff, to limit the private corporation and also by using the government because it applies to them first. And their role is to limit the licensee that they give out on our behalf, but in no way, shape, or form, unless you are serving actively, as I was, you have to obey by any law, unless do no harm. In common law, that's what it is. When people see that there was harm done, a prejudice can be claimed against the person and it can be proven. This is common law. We're going to put you in a trial of your peer. Now we don't have any of that. Right now we have a system of commercial code which treats
Summary
us
conviction.
as
Summary
unliving creature or
convictions
dead bodies,
dead
other
bodies,
corporation, or even worse,
entities,
merchandise.
summoning,
This is what we're treated like when we go to court.
So what
I've
corporation
learned
is
that
running this
not
company?
from my mouth, but by reading all these status. I mean, I didn't print it that.
What
here,
corporation would you say is running this country?
Power Corp?
Well,
Is it
ultimately,
Power
it's
Corp?
private corporation. The name doesn't really matter because it all leads to one.
Well, the names do
global
matter, though,
monster,
because
which has always
demons
been there and has done its best to
their power stripped when you know their name, right? Like that's mythology. So the idea that it's like thousands of years old, that it's even ingrained in children's stories, Rumpelstiltskin, right? These things, their power comes from their name. So when you say that the name of the corporation doesn't really matter, it kind of does, because you must know your enemy, and to have it as just a shadowy organization of them gives nobody the agency to fight or at least know their own enemy. So do you know the name of the corporation that is running the company? Would you say it is Power Corp? Maybe it's...
These are facade. I could name a million company. I'd be dead on, because it's all lead up. In North America, it's easy, but in the world also it's easy. It all leads
They
to
are demons.
the Crown Corporation, which
demons.
belongs to actually Mary Elizabeth Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, which is otherwise known as Elizabeth II, and but through that there are a bunch of cascade company. I mean, I could name DuPont, I could name Monsanto, I could name Coca-Cola, I could name them all. They're all part
they're
of
all
the same
shareholders?
monster. They're all ultimately linked to the same thing. And
work for
what we're exposing
Beelzebub.
now is the banking cartel, but that has been done before.
Yeah.
They're going to throw the Rothschild at us in order to calm us
Well, the
down,
Rothschilds
but it's
will
much
be
deeper than that.
scapegoat.
Some people have studied the secret society and everything. Like I said at the beginning, I don't go down these rabbit holes. I don't care if the earth is flat or round. I don't care. I have read law.
It's
I can
definitely
prove
not
by
flat.
fact that they're not abiding by it. It's their book. Therefore, the solution that I'm trying to put forward is to put so much shame on them that they won't have a choice in the end to just move out of the way.
So,
And
Jeff,
we, the people, are ready to grow up, if I should say.
Yeah. We've got a question from our live chat from one of our friends that asks, where is this going? Are you claiming that any citizen has the right to impanel a jury and reach a verdict that must be recognized by the government of Canada?
Must be. I would not go that far. I've never put that much hope that it must be. In fact, I don't think they have not really, and I'll speak about the grand jury of 2015. They have not really recognized in public that we were right. But throughout the procedure, it lasted from September 2015 to October 2015. So if you count right, that was back a little over 3 years now. And it lasted only roughly 6 weeks.
And
so
did you
2
have
months,
success
let's say 2 months,
through
to put
that?
it on the safe side. And what happened after the grand jury is we took the judgment that we just received. It was all fresh and still wet of ink. And we went to the so-called Ministry of Justice for the national state of Quebec, and I'll repeat that: the national state of Quebec.
So I gotta interrupt you.
I'm not saying
Why
province.
do you repeat certain phrases? Why do you repeat a few certain phrases? Is it just to emphasize, or
yes, because I'm going to come to that in the second episode when we put forward the solution that I've thought about. But right now I want to emphasize on the fact that yes, Quebec didn't sign the Constitution. It's by no way, shape or form Canada, as it stated in 1867. We're just in front of a private corporation. But yeah, so we went and informed them, and less than 2 months later, the CSST in question, so the guilty corporation of insurance I was talking to you about, they've shut their door. They've canceled the commercial name, and they started on the January 1st of 2016, a brand new shiny company, which was just replacing the other one. And at the same time, the so-called Minister of Labor in Quebec so ministère au ministre du travail, so minister of work. He pretty much lost his job because of the grand jury. He quit. He was moved into another part of the National Assembly of Quebec, and then less than 5 months later, he was out of the Liberal Party. And subsequently to that, another 19 member of the National Assembly for the Liberal government in Quebec, they ended up either quitting or announcing that they would quit at the election that they've just got, in fact, because I don't live there at all, just this past September. So that's the toll that they've taken following the grand jury. But also, in the case of Denis Paiement, which was the victim, they've agreed with letter of change, so it's promise of paying. That's what it is, with their signature down at the bottom, to apply the 23 points of law that they've neglected to apply up until then. So when I look at my friend's case after the grand jury, he was able not only to close the business down, get the ministry to eat some dust and friends of his, but also now he has $250,000 of letter of change from this very company.
So your grand jury has actually had some successes, or one success.
They're forced to serve us, and if they're not serving, that's our key to freedom. We don't have time at this point, though, to judge individual people.
Okay.
That's why at the grand jury we've put the law into I'd say the guilty bench now. Back then, it was the law was accused. I was the prosecutor.
And did the government actually recognize this verdict with you as a prosecutor?
No, not officially. They
now,
cannot do
doesn't
that.
this fall, especially with
if they recognize anything the grand jury has done, all they will find is the same result that we did. Quebec is not a part of Canada. By then, everything goes down the drain, because if Quebec's not part of Canada, there are 42 or 44 MP at the Parliament in Ottawa, which don't belong there. Therefore, British Columbia can be part of Canada. Alberta cannot be part of Canada. All these people, they're illegally formed, illegally elected. And I'm telling you the truth. When I say Quebec didn't sign the Constitution, I'm not inventing that fact. I mean, they didn't have the signature in 1982. They failed at Meech. They failed at Charlottetown. Yeah. If I refer Canada to baseball, 3 strike, and you're out. So that's what they got. They knew that because remember, the thing is, when they got the Constitution back, Trudeau, he was all right, Prime Minister. That was his job at the time. But prior to do that, he was a member of the Bar Association. If we follow the path of things, at every level, you find the same guilty party, the Quebec Bar Association.
Well, what's also funny is that a corporation has a charter, and a group of people have a declaration. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, like, every corporation, incorporated, limited, whatever, has a charter. That's the charter that sets it out. So it's funny that we have a charter of rights and freedoms. Well, we don't have a charter of rights and freedoms, but it's funny that there is
the Corporation of Canada has a charter of rights and freedoms.
Yes, it's their book of rule.
Well, yeah, you can see that it's their book because they don't apply it to us. They say that they are going to protect our freedom of association, and left, right, and center, all over Canada, you see that you don't have the right to be freely associated with.
Rights at
well, yeah,
all.
you really do have no rights. You have the right to remain silent, or they'll kick the shit out of you.
This is something else.
And it's insane where they just run roughshod over all of our rights, all of our freedoms, and you're saying it's just because they're a corporate machine and they don't see us as anything other than cogs in their machine?
You are just a cog, yes. You are just a piece of the machine. You are not a living being. And you are, in fact, you were born as a corporation. I didn't mention that in my introduction of myself, but before I became a military, I worked in a hospital in Montreal, the McGill University Health Center to be precise, and I worked at 3 different sites for them, the Montreal General, the Royal Victoria Hospital, and the Montreal Chest Institute. But at the Royal Victoria, I did two jobs. First, I was on emergency call, and second, I was delivering birth certificate, or what I thought was birth certificate, but that's really what it is. When you're birding merchandise off a ship, you create a birth certificate. So this is where the joke comes from.
Bill of landing.
The social insurance number, it's not yours. It's not yours. If you're claiming it, you're in trouble. But that is what Dean Clifford mainly, and also Robert Minard have discovered, and also came to the same conclusion. No matter what I read that comes from them, there's no solution in any of these books.
No, there doesn't seem to be a solution.
There's no solution, and that's what I like the most. Probably a statement that I will always remember about Dean Clifford. He say, "Well, I'm getting the fuck out of Dodge, and I'm going to do it myself." And sorry for the language, but that's pretty much what he said. I mean, there's no solution in their bullshit system. I'm going to do my own, and that's why I've looked into the status and history of Canada, and back to the story of my friend. I say, how can we get you a fair trial? Because we know that everything we're going to throw at the Quebec court is unfair to begin with. And by now we've gone so deep down the law of Canada, we've already realized that it's impossible to get justice from a criminal system. That's really what they are. This is why they call this the criminal code.
Well, it's not impossible,
who uses a criminal code every day? Oh yeah,
effort.
The criminal people.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't apply to you. It applies to them.
So in BC, we have this proportional representation thing that's going through the mail right now. And
I'm aware. Yes.
Would you say that this is unconstitutional, or?
It's in fact unconstitutional because British Columbia by its own doesn't have the power, just as Quebec did not have the power to screw up with the Constitution. The model of voting right now is based, technically, we know it's not true, but technically it's based upon the Constitution of 1867. The people don't have a say in the form.
They make us think that we have a say. You get to sign a little paper and send it in the mail.
What they're presenting to people of British Columbia right now is the republic system, two level of voting, because they know by now we don't have a constitutional monarchy anymore. Well, in their system, because I'm a little surprised for them and for you and for everyone who's watching, but that's for the next episode. As of now, what they're doing with it's illegal. But in fact, the legislature in Victoria has no.
Almost everything they do is illegal. When you think about taxation is totally theft.
Yes.
Taking people's money without asking, without permission, is theft, and redistributing it. So unfortunately, the poor people that are getting that cash, that free government money, they're receiving proceeds of crime. So really, the BNA Act and all this stuff that all of it constitutes from really should be renamed the Thieves' Handbook.
I would love if
the Thief Guild's
you would be right.
guide
the fact
to
is they're not
shanking your
in any way, shape, or form. That document is not bad. It's what they're doing, and especially the lie that they're claiming. Oh, we're government. I can prove that you're not.
Well, yeah,
you
you see,
Constitution, you're
all
not doing
across
this in any
Canada
way, shape,
now,
or form. Just like Paul said, they're not respecting the left, right, and center.
No, they're not respecting
what about creating
rights.
a declaration for the people? Like Americans have the Declaration of Independence, which
yeah,
is
but
separate from
that's
their
the
constitution.
same thing. That Declaration of Independence, I will not speak too much about the U.S. because I don't want to do any mistake, but one sure thing that I know, they don't have a republic. That is sure.
Well,
you
of
can
course,
read
we
in their
know that.
statute,
and
sorry,
based out of-
the United States is in the same shape as of Canada. It's a
But it
bankrupt
used to be-
corporation.
it used to
nothing
be
else.
a republic.
Trump is the CEO of a bankrupt corporation, but that's all he always did.
But it wasn't always that way, was it?
It was
back
a good experiment. When the bankruptcy happened in the United States.
What else happened in 1913?
That's when the Republic fell over.
Federal
but in fact,
Reserve,
starting from Lincoln on, they had a real problem. I'm not going to go down that hole. We have a different type of problem. Our country was disbanded in 1968. That's when the corporation really took over. Before that, it's rough for me to go back then and get some information about what was legal or not, but where I can prove it is in 1968, the 18th of December. I can really prove what happened there.
Yeah.
They have disbanded the Legislative Council in Quebec. That's where it all ended.
You say that the country ended, or the corporation began in 1968. Coincidentally, that is when Canada's debt skyrocketed.
Oh, 60,
And
yeah,
I'm not
82.
talking, no, he said 68. And so that's also just around the time that Canada stopped really using the Bank of Canada.
Here's our main
started-
problem. Thank you, Josh.
started
Here's our main
moving
problem. We need to
to,
take that bank back, and we're going to
yeah,
solve a lot
so
of things by that at the same time.
debt
First, interest is
is
illegal, but the Bank of Canada
unconstitutional.
is forced
I never
to
agreed
issue
to pay
loan to
any
the
of that
government for the
back.
government program, 0 interest. So if a private bank charge you interest, that's not really legal. The mandate
So do you
of the
think
government of the
that
people is to issue loan
a-
interest free, and that's why they kill Canada. These 3 words, Bank of Canada. The only reason they've killed it, because with an interest-free bank, we were pretty much ruling the world.
Well, we were
And,
doing okay, and generally our citizens, and I don't mean our citizens, but like the people that lived in Canada did okay. The father, and I'm sorry, trigger warning. We're going to go into gender stereotypes and heteronormative family
Alex.
values here,
Holy.
but. Traditionally, the father could go to work,
Oh,
the
I
mother could
could
raise
feel
the
it.
children, and this was all before that stuff. And the mother could stay home and watch the children. We didn't need socialized daycare programs. We didn't need socialized before and after school care. We didn't need $10 a day daycare. We didn't need the government taking care of our children or our families because our money still had value. The work that the father or, sometimes the mother would go out and do was usually enough for the family to survive. And I know that now we have a lot more expenses than we did back in 1960s. I mean, some people pay $200 a month for their phone, which is ridiculous, but that's their money, whatever. And afterwards, you've got this debt that's eating away inflation, right? So it's eating away the value of our work, and the government has worked through its unconstitutional means to divide and destroy the family, get the mother into the workplace with this demonic guise that it's freedom and work, it will set you free, taking the mother away, the matriarch out of the family and putting that into the workplace as another taxpayer, taking the patriarch out of the family and undermining
women's rights.
Yeah, undermining him as the patriarch of the family, putting the state in as the head of the family, and the patriarch as a tertiary parent with the mother as a secondary parent, and then working to get kids into the workforce as well as taxpayers when they're 15, 16,
Get some vaccines
all of
in
this
them.
debt. Shouldn't it, if you've heard of a debt jubilee, right? Wouldn't a debt jubilee help us bring our families back so that,
That'd be great,
we wouldn't need to
I
destroy
can see
our
where you're coming
families.
from. But the problem with this idea is that everybody's gonna, pass go and collect $200, and the system is going to go down so quickly if we declare that in any way, shape, or form.
Well, there's ways to do it.
Imagine
There
that.
are
I'm
ways
just
to
going
do a
finish
debt
on that one.
jubilee.
Sorry, Josh.
Okay.
But the people with the most debt are the big corporations. So if we declare a debt jubilee for you who owe $3,000, let's say. Videotron or a big corporation, they're going to go out with thousands of and hundreds of $1 billion or whatever the amount they owe. We cannot, and especially the Corporation of Canada, which is up to $750 million in debt. I mean, they are responsible. They need to pay for the mess.
The debt in Canada shouldn't belong to you or me, and they put that on us. That's why we are heavily burdened by
it's
taxation.
not ours.
Canada
That's the beauty
is the
of
most
what I would like
taxed nation in the world.
propose to the people of
But they
Canada.
say it's ours.
They're
It
a
is
private
ours.
corporation.
It's-
They just go just like McDonald's, and if they can't
Well,
pay
I
for
would be
themselves, well, it
happy
just didn't
for that
sink.
debt to just disappear so that they could stop
Well,
stabbing
they
me in
use
the
that
back.
debt on you.
Yeah.
They don't.
They
you
force
could,
me
if you
to
had the money
pay.
to pay that debt back, they wouldn't take it because
No.
that is the
key to slavery.
Exactly.
That is the chains
that is the collateral
that
because you
bind
can't
us.
pay. This is how you
That
sell out a
is
country.
The
This is how you sell the
boot
resources.
that they present so we can give that boot a nice
Well,
lick and taste
just
that
as a
fucking
personal
leather.
experience, I have
Like
not
it.
filled paperwork for the Canada Revenue Agency or Quebec Revenue Agency for that matter, because there's a second one if you're not aware. This is completely insane and nuts. Quebec is the only place in the world where they have two income tax. That's why I don't live there anymore. When I left the first time in 2004, I was so happy.
I don't know why
So they're
anybody would
paying
live
two
there.
income taxes, but
Two
the thing
income
is,
taxes.
just like
So
the
double
prosecutor of
jeopardy
Canada
theft.
Revenue Agency said in the Normandin cause I was talking about a little earlier, if I didn't sign a declaration or a tax declaration, or am I not responsible for so starting in 2003, that was the very last time I signed a tax declaration form. I've never heard from any of the Quebec or Canada Revenue Agency in my life.
Well,
And when
the
they
book
when they
is
tried,
huge,
because
and
they
you
made
can't
a
read it.
arbitrary declaration for me, I think in 2010 or something like that. I took a piece of paper. I said, "You want me to fill your form? This is $50,000 per page." I signed on the bottom. I
Okay,
shipped that
so-
into the mail.
but
Never heard from them
You
again.
never heard from them
But
again,
then,
because doesn't that stuff
being-
end up
what-
getting people put in jail? Isn't that the kind of stuff that got Dean Clifford arrested?
Paper
I mean,
terrorism.
paper terrorism, yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that got that dude in Alberta arrested. All of
Boisjoli.
this,
Yeah, because they're
Yeah,
pirates.
Boisjoli,
But in the end, I'm still right. Their own prosecutors
can be
said if I don't
right,
sign a
but
form, I'm not
they
abide by
are
it. So I
killing
stopped
you,
just filing in. And
jailing
here's the
you.
problem that they've got with me is that even though I didn't sign a tax declaration
Yeah.
form, I am still being, like I show you, I'm being paid by the government of Canada. So
Well,
they take
that's a
money off me
benefit package,
every
actually.
year.
You're not
It's quite a
necessarily being
chunk.
paid.
It's around
That's
$20,000.
a benefit
So
package of joining the franchise, though, right?
what's that?
Wouldn't you say that's more of a benefit package of joining the franchise? You were a
Well,
franchise holder.
For myself, this is what's strange, because yes, it's veterans benefit because I have been handicapped. So why they're taxing me, I don't really care about it. I'm just not filling any form, and based on my income, yeah, they're taking a bunch on me. But if they force me to declare anything, I am tax exempt because it's an insurance income for
but
being handicapped.
I think,
Well,
wouldn't it be
tax
true
exempt.
that you accepting the benefit of the program would show your tacit acceptance to be part of it?
Well, in my case, yes. I told you I signed a second contract. Yes, yes. It's exactly it. I am treated
So-
as an employee,
that-
even though I am a retired employee. I
So
have
that
to
should be
pay
taxed
some
then.
some form of income. There are the people who are
Should be
paying me,
taxed. I should
but my
slap.
situation is a little bit different. I must admit,
slap.
than from a total private worker.
Yeah, but you're receiving the benefits from the franchise of being in the military, though, right?
Not now. Now
I
it's
like what
veteran
Big
affair.
Daddy has to
I'm
say
completely off the hook with the military. I don't owe them
Well, what is a
anything. I don't
veteran?
answer anything.
I'm not
the
a
forces
veteran,
don't speak
right?
to me. I'm not receiving anything from them.
Aren't
It
we all
really
veterans
is. If I
in
can
war
zoom
on
the camera
terrorism?
on, it's another ministry or part of Canada. Am I showing that right? Yes, Prime. Look, it says Veterans Affair here. Maybe you cannot see really clearly, but it's another ministry. It's not related with the national defense at all. So it's a contract that I'm having with them. Yes. Yes, and in signing that contract, I am subject to be taxed. There's a legal way in the Constitution of Canada to, yes, tax the produce that are sold in the territory, especially which product that come from abroad. We can put a border tax in which when you go and buy that item, yes, you're paying a tax. So that's a legal way of forming people. What's technically unacceptable, and it is not in the Constitution, it's to tax your income. When you go and work, do I personally have the power to tax Josh right there? I mean, if you're working, I don't know, at Wendy's or
You got
Walmart, whatever.
12 gauges
Can I come
that
to
say you
Walmart and say I'm
don't.
going to take 20% of your earning?
I mean, that's a
I
threat.
can't do
No,
that.
but what I
So
think
what
what a lot
does the government, who claim is the government, they can take that power from me and do that to you.
Well, here's the proof. Here's the truth: is that every weekend in Canada, well, maybe not in the winter, in most of the provinces, but every weekend there's garage sales, and none of that is taxed. None
They
of
would
that.
if they could.
No, they wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. Because you're not operating a system of franchise. There's no benefit package. If someone buys your TV and you walk that TV out to the person's car and it drops on your foot and it breaks your foot, you go to the doctor. The first thing the doctor says, was this a workplace accident? Now, when you sign up for the benefits card, I'm a card carrying SIN card.
Yeah.
I signed up for benefits, which is WCB, CPP, EI. These are benefits I get for joining the franchise. And there's a franchise fee called income tax. But if you work on your own, privately, in your own labor, on your own sweat, mowing the lawn for the dude the next door, and he's not your quote-unquote employer, and you're not the quote-unquote employee, then I would argue that there is a private aspect.
Right. Even though they're trying the opposite in Quebec right now. Whatever is being sold on a popular website called, I think, Kijiji, maybe you know about them.
Yeah,
they're trying to take their share of that.
Yeah.
And it's already started with cars. It's completely insane. I don't know here about
cars are
British
registered,
Columbia, because I've never sold a car here, but I've
cars.
sold several cars in Quebec. And when you sell a car, you need to go to the... It is private insurance, but it is called the public regime. It's not true. It's a lie. You need to pay these people. I'm selling my car to you, and I need to give $700 to the regime. Just
mafioso.
Why? It's a private transaction. I've already paid tax on that car. So if a car gets sold 10 times in Quebec, you pay 10 times the taxes that comes with it.
Yeah, I think
Demons
the car
don't
has something to
play
do with
by rules.
registration, but at the end of the day, I would say that when you're receiving a benefit from what you've signed into, like, I agree, taxation is theft. Well, if it's not, if it's not both
Consensual.
parties, consensual. However, I would argue that a lot of the stuff we've done unwittingly and through fraud. I agree through that, but specifically, we are continuing to do it. And I think it was somebody on the Paul LeBlanc here on an earlier post on the chat here said that income tax in a corporation is constitutional. And I've seen Supreme Court cases that have said, yes, the income tax is constitutional. And I thought, how could that possibly be? But I understand
because it's the government arguing for the government, and you're going to the government saying, hey,
that's exactly
can we
what Jeff
please
said.
steal from people? Who's going to steal from people? Well, we're going to steal from people and we'll pay you. Well, I don't know. Okay, we'll let that happen. We'll steal from the people. We'll give you a cut. We'll give you a cut. You make it legal. You enforce it. Well,
then
that's how
why
it's
do they allow?
constitutional.
Why in
It's
2018?
theft.
Why do we allow
Steal.
Craigslist, Kijiji?
They don't allow it. We do it.
No.
regardless. They don't allow it. They crack down on people all the time.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You look
Because
at
I'll tell you
Uber.
why. Because
Okay.
you go to a website and it's
Yeah.
like, you can't go to this website. It's
Yeah.
a dangerous website. They'll knock Alex Jones off of any
Platform, yeah.
platform. That is what they're doing because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Why would they don't do that to Kijiji
Because
and Victoria?
they can track that shit, and eventually they're gonna backdate that shit and shank you from behind.
What
and
they
say,
expect-
remember
what
back
they
in
expect
October
is you to
15th,
not know your
2018, when
rights.
you sold a $20 bag of whatever toys to this guy? Well, we want our 15%.
When show me that has ever
2030.
happened? Show me that has
2030.
ever happened, and I'll understand that.
Well, it's happened with the government of Canada requesting information from eBay and eBay sellers and Etsy. So it's happened before. Maybe not with Kijiji.
I could understand
maybe
that,
not
yeah.
with Craigslist. They were just doing the census stuff to get banking data from.
But that was all
big-
illegal.
It was all illegal.
That's right. So it's not legal. It's not.
They
the
do
government doing
everything they do is
Gentlemen,
illegal.
there is nothing legal in Canada. 1968. There's only
68. Right.
Let's bring it back to Jeff.
there's only business court. They're gonna rule in favor, just like like Josh
it's gangsters,
said.
yeah.
Sorry about that, because they're party and they're judge and party at the same time. And I
Judge,
remember
jury,
you said that
conviction,
several times here, Paul, here on
execution.
Free for All, on Freedom Free for All, just like in Dan or Josh Brothers' case. I mean, the prosecutor and the Crown, they claim they're the Crown, they're not, but the judge is also of the Crown. How can this time he was right on to it? They could not prove him guilty, and that's a huge case, but he's not the first one to get that. It really says in the Constitution, government rules only applies to them, so that includes everything that they do. If you submit and you say, yeah, I'm going to fill this form, just like you were saying a moment ago, you're going to be entitled to the benefits, but you're also going to be entitled in receiving, it is the stick and carrot
exactly.
game.
That's what I'm saying.
They
So
get
we
you
sign
with the
ourselves
carrot,
up for
and
it.
if you fall out of line, they're going to stick you. That's why when I came back to BC, and well,
consent,
not
but-
only when I came back, but starting
There
in
is a
2004, I don't have a
Yeah, that
healthcare
was
card.
definitely the
I want
save
no
CC.
business to do with you. The rare time that I need to go to the doctor, so that's once a year. I pay my fees. I owe you nothing. I don't even give you my name. Here's my $45. What else do you need to know? Nothing.
Well, they
Nothing.
want to know everything. Census wants to know everything
Well,
about you.
census, I've never filled a census form in my life. I'm waiting for the day they're going to try to force it down my throat because I'm going to do the same battle as your brother did. Only I'm going to take 2
Well,
days to do
nice.
that instead of 2 years. Because
So, Jeff,
if they try to stretch it over the amount of time that they did, it's because they had nothing to begin with. Your brother should sue them for harassment and all that stuff, and also repay me every freaking time that I've come here
Yeah.
to prove you wrong. But that's him. I'm not suggesting anything. So that's why same thing because I don't think he's going to have justice anyway. So that's why back to the main subject that I don't want to share with you today is that it wasn't that hard to get justice in front of regular people, which are not party to the judge
Yeah, they're not
side and they're not
complicit.
state party. You
Yeah.
just put a situation in front. In my case, it's a grand jury, but in the case of a criminal case, it can be a petty jury, so that's 10 people, and any other claim that can be made also can be a petty jury. A grand jury is a great tribunal for big stuff. I mean, it's not there for running a red light. That's minor
No, it's for
stuff
criminal
that can be
stuff. Running a red
settled
light
in
is
a
statutory.
smaller
It's
court.
summary
This is
conviction.
why we are stuck
You
with
don't lose your
how they
liberties.
call that in English, summary procedure. I
Yes,
think
summary conviction
is what they do
when you
today.
don't. There's no
So you go
loss
there,
of
you
liberties.
judge,
Yeah.
2 lawyers, battles on. And they can usually solve the issue within 10 minutes, 10, 20 minutes. Why? Because this is all written in there.
It's written in their code called statute law. Yeah.
So that's what we've lost with common law. The right of being trialed by other people. So if we can bring that back, and to resume the question that brought us here, is that I don't think they'll ever recognize grand jury again.
Okay.
The way they were bricked in the English law, because now we're living in hybrid parrot system, which was brought to you as well as everybody in Canada from the Quebec Bar Association, and their book of rule, which is the Civil Code of Quebec, which you were never made aware of, because of course it's all written in French, and you think it concerned only Quebec. Well, think again. Because they're the guilty party who sold Canada, the Quebec Lawyer Association. So they're using that everywhere to fool everyone. I have signed a car contract last time I was in Victoria for the car, which is in my alleyway right now. And when you read the small print, you clearly see at one point, based on the Civil Code of Quebec, I mean, hold on a second. I'm in British Columbia. How can the Civil Code of Quebec have jurisdiction over my commercial contract that I've signed on Douglas Street in Victoria? It's just like saying you sign a contract in Canada, but we're going to apply the rule of Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe
Really?
rules.
What value does that have in reality?
One day that will happen, though. You know, that's what the United Nations wants, is the lowest common denominator and the lowest amount
Yeah.
of freedom from whatever. They're going to take the bottom of the barrel and apply it everywhere. That's the goal.
Yes, and they're trying that right now because the Supreme Court of Canada was put on the same level as, I'll say it in French because it comes from France, but it's called Cour de Cassation de France, which is the highest tribunal in France. It's above every other tribunal. They want to bring the world to a republic system which has constantly failed since Rome. Every time we have a republic, it was taken over. It always ended up with fiat currency, and this is where I would like to bring forward the Black's Law Dictionary, which is their language, which is not English. So, and I'll prove it to you. Well anyway,
actually,
anyone watching
Trixie-
this, if you're on Freedom Free for All,
Actually,
you know that the legal system is not English, and it's a totally different language. So that's why I claim once again there is no solution in their system. Therefore, we need another way around, and I bring you back to the grand jury, which is an historical thing that we can prove work.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a quick break, a quick video that Adam's got set up here. We'll come back. And what we're going to do is we're going to answer some questions.
All right, and I'll take a moment to take a quick break. Thank you very much for once again welcoming me on Freedom Free for All.
So we'll take a short break, and we will be right back in a minute or so. Enjoy this video.
Get your questions ready.
Get your questions ready for Jeff, and we will wrap it up right after this.
You're watching Freedom Free for All. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube.
Welcome to the House of 1,000 T-shirts, where you will find unique T-shirts, graphic novels, and other swag brought to you by artists from around the world. Go now to houseof1000t-shirts.com.
The business model of the CRA is exactly the same as the business model of organized crime when it comes to collecting what they think they're owed. And it's an extortion racket. That's really what it is. And that's how they operate. It's why they operate that way. And it's not going to change anytime soon. I would like to see personal income tax abolished.
You're watching Freedom Free for All. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. You'll receive notifications every time we go live and before our show every Tuesday night at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time.
Welcome back to Freedom Free for All. I've got the new Agora here. This is not the most current issue, but the thing about the new Agora is actually you can read any issue from any time, and you're going to find topical stories, kind of like the stuff we've been talking about today with Jeff, about constitutions, about freedom, about the immorality of government, about demons in the government, the Illuminati. But there's also other sides to it, like health, freedom, wellness, things that you can do to help live your life the most free that you can. And you can find your copies of the new Agora in cannabis dispensaries while they're still around. You won't find them in the government cannabis store, I'll tell you that.
Exactly.
Or you can go online. If you're one of our 10.5 million viewers online, you can go to newagora.ca. You can pick up, or you can read a copy for free. These guys put a lot of hard work into their newspaper, and
they've been going on for at least 2 years, 3 years now?
The new Agora has been going on for a while, but the Agora
it's not new
was
anymore.
around
It's
before.
just the Agora.
We actually, if you go into YouTube and go back a couple years, you'll find an interview that we did with Dan Merchant, who was the original founder of the new Agora, or the Agora. And that was a good one. So after this, if you're still jonesing for some Freedom Free for All, you're jonesing to find out about the new Agora, go back, go onto YouTube, search Freedom Free for All, Dan Merchant. He's a great guy, lives on Vancouver Island, started this crazy newspaper that's so good you can't really buy it anywhere. It's free, but
well, it's kind of like record players. It's just people. I do enjoy having a coffee and reading an actual paper, like putting down the phone and not seeing the screen all the time. You know what I mean?
So
Jeff,
hey, do we have you back?
We got Jeff back?
I don't know if we have him back yet. Okay, so
Jeff,
we want to just do a shout
Jeff,
out.
Jeff, are you muted?
Okay.
Jeff,
well,
I think
let's
you're muted.
do a shout out to all of the people that are watching on our live stream. You know, we really appreciate people tuning in.
Yep, we got Ben Loved, Paul LeBlanc, Big Daddy of 2007. We got Justin Trudeau, Paul Martin, and Stephen Harper all loving each other. We got Sebastian Miron Maillet.
I don't know.
I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I got Trixie 79er, Spirit Wolf Moon Dancer. We got Economic Truth, CC, Flurry 17171717, Ben Loved, Large Coffee, and Lore Lachman.
And shout out to all of the CSIS agents watching tonight as well.
Yeah, no shit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, yeah. So, CSIS was on my own computer for a short moment. They've shut my microphone. That would not be the first time. I was just saying, when you said the new Agora is free for the 10 million people, when something is free, you may be the product, but maybe not for the new Agora. But I think about Facebook and stuff like that.
Cannabis
you were talking about earlier how they shut Alex John on YouTube and whatever. It's maybe because It is a private network,
So
and that's exactly why
Yeah.
Alex Jones was a product of them, so they
Jeff-
could shut it down, just like they can shut my channel down, just like they can shut yours. There's no freedom in Google's technology. I never thought of that. And I just want to cut short on a definition, which is here in Black's Law Dictionary. So that's their text. It's very short, it's 2 line. Fiat money, paper currency not backed by gold or silver.
Yeah.
So that's what we got
pretty simple.
today.
Jeff,
So,
we've got
make
we've
of it
got,
what you want.
We've got about 5 minutes left for our show
But
tonight.
we can rifle
and
through these questions.
We've
pretty
got some questions from the live chat that Paul wants to
Yeah.
hit up. And then what I'd like to do is give us a quick synopsis of the problem and a teaser of the solution for the next time you're on the show. Because this is a 2-part show. We're going to
Yes.
have Jeff back on talking about his solution. We've discussed the problems. You know the problems. This is a long-form conversation with a lot of intelligent people. Our viewers, you guys are smart people. You know what's going on. We've clearly explained the problem. Let's get to some questions. Paul?
All right, so we've got a few questions. Trixie 79er, Spirit Wolf Moon Dancer. She was on here all day. She said one of the first questions she asked was, "What did you do to rescind your prior status?"
Not too sure to understand the question. Can you form it with other words?
I think it was in the beginning of the show when you said you're no longer in the military or something like that. She might have taken it the wrong way, but have you rescinded any status whatsoever?
In fact, I got rid of my juridic or strawman, if you'd like.
Yeah.
I got rid of it because there was no use for it. The social insurance number died when I was honorably discharged. I have signed a second contract under my full knowledge and authority without fraud as a human. They cannot force me down back the commercial network. They are really paying me to be alive today as a human. I am receiving my benefits from the Canada Slush Fund, if I can call it that way. But I owe nothing anymore except the original contract where I pledged my life for a certain amount of time. If I got out of it alive, then you pay me for the rest of my life. That was basically the deal. Or if I got hurt, it was the same deal. So from my strawman, when I was serving, full employee, I didn't say a word. I obeyed, to now freedom, where I don't owe them anything. They pay me per month just to be alive and hopefully take care of myself with that amount of money, which is what I'm doing. I'm spending all the benefits that they're sending me solemnly on my immediate well-being, I guess, and I give away a little bit where I can to other people in the country. But when I left the military, they would never relieved me from the oath that I had to be a good citizen and to serve the people honorably.
Yep. So the next question that's in line here is do you think Bernier would be into common law?
He's a lawyer from the Quebec Bar Association, so I don't know what good it would do. Just refer to Trudeau and Mulroney and Chrétien, you'll have your answer.
You can trust
I
lawyers,
don't
can't
do
you?
politics. I don't trust these clowns. The circus is boring, and I've already stepped out. I'm doing something
Okay.
else.
Jump
Pretty
ship.
much the way Dean Clifford is doing, and I got a contract with them. They better pay me, or
Okay.
I'm going to enforce it.
Nice.
So
Jeff, it's been an honor to have
Yeah,
you
we
on the
could
show.
go
It's a
for hours.
good conversation. What are we going to talk about on the next show? We've discussed the problem. Everything's unconstitutional. How are we going to fix it?
we need to take it back into words and do what they have not done. Those who will be free enough to understand they've got fooled and that they have enough, we can play that game and at the same time prove that the clown in front, they're not doing it, they're only lying, they have no real power, authority or whatsoever, and if you don't act as a creature of them, and on the opposite, that you act in your full status of being the owner of the place. I mean, if I compare Canada to a ship right now, everybody's in the galley. We're all having a lot of fun. The food is still warm, but when you look down 2 decks in the engine room, there's a huge hole. And the first thing that you realize is that the crew are not only pirates,
They're demons.
but they're also in the galley. So who's steering the ship? Who's
Yeah.
deciding? Who's taking decision? Who's manning the navigator station? Who's manning every other station? No one. So at this point, I'm going to introduce a solution the easiest way possible for us to do what they haven't done. That means steering the ship. Even though the cruise pirate, it's still our ship, we're still competent enough to just step up one deck and take the wheel. I mean, they've done that to me just as an example. I was not even allowed. That's funny, actually. I'm going to close it on this little funny note, at least.
Okay.
When I got into my first real duty on HMCS Regina and the ship I was posted on back then, actually, I think it was HMCS Ottawa, on which I got out the first time. And I had the Know My Ship book duty to do, and part of it was to steer the ship itself. So I went up to the bridge and I spoke to the officer of the watch, and I said, well, part of my duty is to sit there and kick the bosun down, and I'm going to steer the ship for 1 hour. And I was there just steering the ship, obeying the command that the guy was given to me. Suddenly I look at him, I say, Lieutenant, you realize that I don't even have a driver's license in British Columbia, and you're giving me a 120 million warship to drive? He started laughing so much, I think they're still laughing today. But it was no joke. I mean, there's no one steering the ship, and there's no qualification needed. I knew nothing when I first got on the frigate. They just sit there, don't screw up. Okay, so that's pretty simple. I'm going to assume my responsibility. Yeah, if I beach the ship, well, I think I'm going to be in trouble. I better not do that. So let's do it. And this is what I'm going to speak next time. We're
December
already in
18th?
the process of doing it. First and foremost, to reestablish the province of Quebec the way it should be. And then I can, after that, speak about the fact that we're done in that place. We kicked their ass. We've cleaned the house.
Nice.
We're steering it now. Welcome to the club.
Cool. So that'll be December 18th that we'll have you back on the show, and you'll talk more about the final, or just the solution.
The solution is already unfolding before you, and I prefer to warn everybody next time that you will not believe anything that I will say, but it doesn't change a thing. These are the facts, my own opinion.
Yeah.
It's so insane, the story that we're in, that when I think just about myself, I cannot believe in the mess we're in, and I even cannot believe the solution that I've put forward can work. But it can work if you're into it, if everybody's had enough of the joke, of the circus that we have there. Let's just do our own joke and stuff. I mean,
how do we connect with you, Jeff? How do people in the chat connect with you?
Well, right now I am under heavy attack. I avoid all Facebook of this world. I've been avoiding for a long time. I'm taking a lot of flack right now. You can either go through my YouTube channel, but unfortunately I had to shut every comments everywhere. All the live chat, I had to shut it down. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I have a Gmail account linked to my Abitibi account. I am Abitibi in the channel, so I'll say hi to you. You can follow my name that you see there right now appearing in front of your eye. Just add at gmail.com if you have any question. Otherwise, I'm going to put the solution forward. Hopefully you're willing to help us do it, because the end result of the game we're playing now, the ship is sinking and nobody realized that they all have the power to just go patch it up. Let's get the engine going again, put it in motion, and just steer it where we need. If we let them do it, well, they're pirates and they're eating all the food and they're pretending to be your master, but there is nothing but lies. So
You know what their
either
favorite
we
word is?
tolerate the lies or we live by the
All right.
truth. The truth will set you free.
Absolutely.
Freedom is not in your hand until it's in your hand. If you wait for the other to do it, it's not going to work. And also, the truth also always goes through three inevitable stages. First, it is by...
And Ceases just shut his microphone down. Jeff, your
Oh, he's
microphone
back. He's
just
back.
got shut down. We all know the
it's
quote,
quite possible they shut my microphone back. Truth always goes through three inevitable stages. First, it is violently opposed. I've lived that enough to know it's true. It is then turned into ridicule. This is what I'm living now. That's why I've shut everything. And then it's going to be accepted as fact. My opinion has nothing to do with it. You don't like me, the tone of my voice, the accent that I have, I can't do anything. The truth is the truth. And
Well, thanks for being on the show tonight,
Yeah.
Jeff. I really appreciate it. We've had lots of conversations on off camera.
Yeah.
So I know a lot what you're talking about, but I look forward to the next show that we're together and you tell us more about the solutions aspect of it, because I am interested in it, and that's why I do Freedom Free for All, is so that we can but we can create new truths, new solutions, and connect people together. So thanks for being on the show.
That is why I came back and built some bridge with you. Exactly, my objective was to connect people together. And if I knew about you when I was ordered to get out of British Columbia in 2008, I would have probably made a different decision. I would have connected with you back then. I am back in BC now, even though we're 1,300 kilometers away. We are in the same area of Canada, and really I would love to work with you guys to take it back. I am a sailor. I know Canada is a ship. I know how to steer a ship. That's why I'm going to leave it to you to steer it, because of my background. I will not pretend that I'm better than anyone, and you don't want to see a military steer a ship. I prefer to teach the civilian how to do it, because even though I am retired at the moment, I can be recalled at any time. I was not a reservist nor a conscript. I was a regular member. If they need me, I'll go.
So if you want to get a hold of Jeff, you can
click
contact
on the
him
Abitibi
through the
link
Abitibi.
in there. For all of our viewers,
you can write to me at gmail.com. If you click on it, it's going to end up on YouTube. So I may not get it. So at Gmail, you'll get me. Any question I'm willing to answer. I'd prefer to answer them live like this. So maybe I'll keep all of your questions if you have some for me. Don't hesitate to write, and I'll answer them right here on the December 18th show when I get back.
I want to thank all of our viewers that tuned in live for our show. We will be back next week with another guest. The name slips me right now. Adam, if you can tell me who our guest is. No, not right now. We will be back next Tuesday night live, 7:30 p.m. During the week, if you want to get a Freedom Free for All fix, go to YouTube and check out some of our past shows. Like I said, check out the Agora founder, Dan Merchant. We got Bennett Hunter coming on, the Canadian Libertarian, next week. We've got Abitibi coming on. We've got an amazing lineup of guests. And then we're going to take a little break during Christmas. As always, if you like Freedom Free for All and you want to help support us doing what we're doing, because we do this all on our own time.
What are you talking about? Big Oil supports us.
Big Oil. We have
Tim Ball's buddies. Like, they just pay us huge,
you can go to freedomfreeforall.com on Patreon. So patreon.com/freedomfreeforall. You can donate $9.11 a month. It's less than a pizza.
10.5.
And it's pretty good. It pokes the New World Order in their all-seeing eye, because they're like, why is this $9.11? They'll know you know,
Yeah.
and you'll be helping support this awesome studio, this awesome show. We also have our Facebook page. You can go there, Freedom Free for All. We have tons of memes and stories and conversations like this stuff. Our shows go on there, clips go on there. We've got exclusive stuff that's on our Freedom Free for All Facebook page that isn't on our YouTube channel. And make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Otherwise, you'll never know when we go live, because sometimes we go live.
Because CSIS will just cut you like that.
Yeah. So until next Tuesday, like your foreskin. Like the foreskin. Snip, snip. Until
Thanks,
next
Jeff.
Tuesday, be safe and be free.